I'm an interdisciplinary, I would say an interdisciplinary performing artist, which means that sometimes I'm on stage and sometimes I'm researching, and most of the time I'm working with collective groups who are trying to learn about collecting stories together and making stories together. So I've recently begun teaching at Center for Indigenous Theatre also, but I am the Associate Artistic Director of a place called Jumbleys Theatre in Toronto, and I've been teaching a lot about teaching and acting and creating things around Indigenous history in Toronto for about 8 years. And I've been in Toronto for around 12 years now. My hometown is Kahnawake, Kanien'kehá:ka Territory, and Montreal.
Hi, I'm Vanessa Dion Fletcher. I'm a Potawatomi and Lenape and mixed settler, and that is definitely a strong influence in my artwork. And I have some of my artwork in the background. This is quill work that I made, and may or may not know, quill work is it's very, very fine, small, delicate medium. These original pieces are about 6 inches wide, and I've scanned them and blown them up to be very large. So that's just a little example of one of the many techniques and materials that I use in my art practice, and one of the aspects that brought me to this residency.
Lately, I've been thinking about the central themes to my work. They really have to do with this aspect of embodied communication that would have been present in the territory pre-contact, but also kind of those deep, the imagery that we use to remember our agreements together, mnemonic devices, trying to get a little bit closer to unraveling a lot of those very, very ancient, acts of genius to get the processes that allow us to still have these stories in our hands today. So I've been thinking about times that we've come together to bring our memory together, and times that we've been kind of encouraged to forget. So thinking about drawing that narrative around the dish with one spoon, and really, really investing some time with some dancers this opportunity. I think of every time I work, I like to work in a different medium. So this time I've been really thinking about how do we use bodies to tell these stories.
Amazing. I love your work.
I love your work.
My central themes, I would say over the past few years, I've really been working a lot with porcupine quills and quill work. Identify as being neurodiverse or having a learning disability, depending on the position or theory around disability that you understand and work within. And so I think a lot about language, how we communicate, and I often work in performance. This is maybe where our work over has some common themes, right? Working with my body or with the gesture and act of quill work as a way of accessing and expressing knowledge outside of the colonial trap that is the English language.
So I think about like convergent knowledge, right? I'm doing so much research about Toronto from many different perspectives. I'm working on a book right now called The Treaty Guide for Torontonians, and working with some really great informants. I'm working with Jill Carter and Ellen Corbière and a bunch of people that really have a really wonderful, embodied perspective on treaty making in the area, along with a couple settler ally kind of co-writers and people that I really think could help bring this to a larger audience. Is really interesting. I think about also your work around language and kind of like different approaches to learning. I've been really intrigued by like slowing down and thinking about what other type of tactile things do we need to remember, and what other processes have been taken out of our hands, and then how can we kind of put symbols back into people's hands in a unique way. So I've wrangled in some people who are professional ASL performers and people from this company called Cyborg Circus, so accessibility, kind of justice, activist movement people. So with my project, we'll be doing a few developmental kind of movement exploration activities in the second half of my residency. So in the winter term, possibly in the outdoors, possibly in the indoors, but spending a lot of time with my choreographer, my team of Indigenous choreographers to create this movement and these explorations.
So excited to see how that grows and manifests. It's a great group of people you're bringing together. I am going to be I'm going to be making some physical kind of sculptural or installation artwork over the next few months, and I'm also going to be hosting 3 to 4 conversations with other artists who use quill work in their practice as a way to kind of build and further the conversation around quill work and what's happening today with different artists. Somewhat informal conversation where we can kind of share and build our knowledge outside of written text, and those conversations will be open to the public as well as the U of T community, and then be recorded and hosted on a website that everyone can watch for the rest of the semester.